My mom was a great Southern cook. I grew up standing in a chair next to her at the stove with a cast iron skillet, doing all the Southern classics. I'm Michelle Weaver, and I like to cook food that makes people smile. She crab soup is a very important dish to Charleston and the history. It tells the story of how the modern cuisine of what we think is today has developed over the years and years. When you taste the she crab, you taste bits of history, but you also taste what Charleston is. You taste that ocean, you taste that salt, you taste that sweet. It's what makes them so special. The story goes that our lovely mayor of Charleston, Mayor Rhett, had the president, Taft, coming for a visit, and he tasked Mr. Dees, his butler, with sassing up the soup, their regular crab soup. So Mr. Dees decided to add some crab roe, which was a fertilized crab roe at the time, to the soup, and a little sherry. So that's the version that we're gonna make. Mr. Dees moved on to restaurants later in the 1900s and did this recipe and worked in the restaurants until his death in 1961. So this is an ode to Mr. Dees. Thank you, Mr. Dees, for this beautiful she crab soup. First of all, we're gonna start off with some butter and flour because that's gonna make our roux. Roux's gonna be our thickening agent and hold everything together and be happy. So we're gonna start by melting our butter. Now you want a pot that's gonna hold everything and not overflow. So this is gonna give us a little room to stir and not make a mess. So you can see all that goodness right there. I mean, anything that starts with butter can't be bad. All right, so we're gonna add our flour. And we're doing this over like a medium heat. So we're gonna cook this for a couple of minutes just to cook all that beautiful floury taste out there. So we're gonna add our liquid now. We've got some half and half. So you wanna stir this constantly. If you've ever made gravy, you don't want lumpy gravy. Just stir, stir, stir. I've got a little milk. Now, you can use straight cream. I think cream just tends to be a little too heavy for this dish since we're thickening it already. And we're gonna bring this up to a nice little rolling simmer. We'll add a little pinch of salt. And I'm using a little white pepper. You can use black pepper. And we're just gonna stir, stir, stir. Now at this point, we can turn it up a little bit. I'm gonna add the onions and let that kind of infuse our liquid a little bit. I'm using a sweet onion. I just happen to like the flavor with the sweet crab. I think they make a nice little combination. We don't wanna cover the flavor of the crab. We just wanna accent it and make it happy together. Do you see how it's starting to thicken a little bit? All that roux is pulling that cream together. The onions are getting nice and tender and perfuming the liquid. And the flour that's helping to thicken this, we're gonna turn that down just a little bit. So this is our mace, or nutmeg if you can't find the mace. And you wanna keep stirring, stir, stir, stir. And then we've got a little cayenne for a little spice. And we've got some Worcestershire. This is gonna add some umami flavor, as we call it these days. A little depth. And we're gonna add our roe. The color's starting to take on that little hue of pink and orange. Gorgeous. All right, now we're just gonna warm through our crab meat. Wow, how pretty. You get little bits of that roe, little bits of that crab. And I'm adding a little lemon zest to help brighten all the flavors. This is a pot of history, you know, for Charleston and for South Carolina. Every dish that we cook has a story to tell. And this is Mr. D's story. And we want to make sure we preserve that. You know, we can enhance it, we can reinterpret it as, you know, we evolve through time, but we always want to keep our bits of history. All right, let me just taste this to make sure. We got all of our seasoning right. Blue crab, I love you. So we're gonna finish this now with our sherry. You can also serve it on the table. Let everybody put their own sherry in. I know a lot of Charlestonians, they prefer it on the side because everybody likes a different amount of sherry. All right, so this is just a little bit of sherry there. Perfect. this is. I think everybody likes a little bread to go with their soup. All right. There we go. This is a rich soup, so this whole pot should feed at least 4 to 6 people. And a little pinch of parsley. So make sure the next time you're in South Carolina, you try the she crab soup. It's part of Carolina history. Come see us in South Carolina, where there's always something new to discover.